Tonight is the 17th of August 2011, and we are starting on the Itivuttaka, the first night. This Itivuttaka is the book after the Udana in the Khuddaka Nikaya, and consists of 112 short discourses of the Buddha in both prose and verse. The reason it is called Itivuttaka because just before each set of verses, usually there is this words Itivuchati, thus it was said. That's why this collection of suttas is called Itivuttaka, thus it was said. These sayings of the Buddha are grouped into 4 unequal sections, arranged a bit like the Anguttara Nikaya, according to the number of items they contain, from 1 to 4. And according to this text, it says, besides these 4 sections, 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, the text is further subdivided into Vargas, sections, groups of roughly 10 suttas. Okay, so we will start with the chapter 1, the section of the ones. Ekanipata, Eka is 1, Nipata, you can see is the chapter. 1.1, the first sutta is Loba Sutta. This was said by the Lord, said by the Arahant, so I heard, or thus I heard. Abandon one thing, monks, and I guarantee you non-returning. What is that one thing? Greed is that one thing, monks. Abandon that, and I guarantee you non-returning to samsara. Beings coveting with greed go to rebirth in a bad born, but having rightly understood greed, those with insight abandon it. By abandoning it, they never come back to this world again. This too is the meaning of what was said by the Lord. Thus I heard. Sutta 1.2, Dosa Sutta. This was said by the Lord. Hate or hatred is one thing, monks. Abandon that, and I guarantee you non-returning. Now the beginning is same as the previous one. Abandon one thing, monks, and I guarantee you non-returning. What is that one thing? Hatred is that one thing, monks. Abandon that, and I guarantee you non-returning. Beings corrupted by hate go to rebirth in a bad born. By having rightly understood hate, those with insight abandon it. By abandoning it, they never come back to this world again. Sutta 1.3, Moha Sutta. Similarly as before, abandon one thing, monks. And what is that one thing? Delusion is a one thing, monks. Abandon that, and I guarantee you non-returning. Beings confused by delusion go to rebirth in a bad born. But having rightly understood delusion, those with insight abandon it. By abandoning it, they never come back to this world again. Stop here for a moment. These 3 things, Loba, Dosa, Moha, these are the 3 roots of evil, the 3 things that keep us in samsara. So when a person becomes enlightened, he cuts off these totally. This was said by the Lord, abandon one thing, monks. What is that one thing? Anger is that one thing, monks. Abandon that, and I guarantee you non-returning. Beings enraged with anger go to rebirth in a bad born. By having rightly understood anger, those with insight abandon it. By abandoning it, they never come back to this world again. 1.5, Makka Sutta. Just now was Koda Sutta, number 4. Now number 5 is Makka Sutta. This was said by the Lord similarly as before, abandon one thing. And contempt is that one thing, monks. Abandon that, and I guarantee you non-returning. Beings despising others with contempt go to rebirth in a bad born, but having rightly understood contempt, those with insight abandon it. By abandoning it, they never come back to this world again. 1.6 Mana Sutta. This was said by the Lord. Abandon one thing, monks, etc. Conceit is that one thing, monks. Abandon that and I guarantee you non-returning. Beings puffed up with conceit go to rebirth in a bad born. But having rightly understood conceit, those with insight abandon it. By abandoning it, they never come back to this world again. This was said by the Lord. Sutta number 7, Sabba Parinya Sutta. This was said by the Lord. Monks, one who has not directly known and fully understood the all, who has not detached his mind from it and abandoned it, is incapable of destroying suffering. But one who has directly known and fully understood the all, and who has detached his mind from it and abandoned it, is capable of destroying suffering. One who knows the all in every way, who is not attached to anything, having fully understood the all, has overcome all suffering. According to a commentary, the all refers to the 5 aggregates. But usually in the suttas, like in the Samyutta Nikaya, the all refers to the 6 sense bases. The 6 sense bases meaning eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. And from there you get the 6 sense objects, sights, sounds, smells, taste, touch and thoughts. And because of these two, the 6 consciousness arise. And when the 6 consciousness arise, it always comes with nama rupa. Nama rupa is the object of consciousness. And this object consists of mentality and materiality, the mental part and the physical part of the world. So the world arises because of this. That's why here it says the whole world, the whole universe arises at the 6 sense basis. Sutta 1.8 Mana Parinya Sutta. This was said by the Lord. Monks, one who has not directly known and fully understood conceit, who has not detached his mind from it and abandoned it, is incapable of destroying suffering. But one who has directly known and fully understood conceit, and who has detached his mind from it and abandoned it, is capable of destroying suffering. Humankind is possessed by conceit, bound by conceit and delighted with being. Not fully understanding conceit, they come again to renewal of being. But those who have abandoned conceit and who by destroying conceit are freed, have conquered the bondage of conceit and overcome all suffering. If a person is delighted with being, delighted with the self, then conceit naturally grows, naturally rises. So when you abandon conceit, is also equivalent to abandoning being, abandoning the concept of I am, I, the self. 1.9 Loba, dosa, moha, koda, makha, parinya, sutta. This was said by the Lord. One who has directly known and fully understood greed, hatred, delusion, anger, contempt, is capable of destroying suffering. Sutta 1.10 Avijja Nivarana Sutta. Avijja is ignorance, Nivarana is hindrance. This was said by the Lord. Monks, I do not perceive any single hindrance other than the hindrance of ignorance, by which humankind is so obstructed and for so long a time runs on and wanders in samsara. It is indeed through the hindrance of ignorance that humankind is obstructed and for a long time runs on and wanders in samsara. No other single thing exists like the hindrance of delusion, which so obstructs humankind and makes it wander on forever. Those who have abandoned delusion, cleaving through this mass of darkness, no longer roam and wander on. In them the cause is found no more. This delusion normally is a translation of moha, but here avijja is ignorance, and ignorance normally refers to ignorance of the Dhamma, ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. If a person does not have the good fortune to listen to the Dhamma, then he is ignorant. Delusion, on the other hand, is something that covers us, that makes us deluded. It is more concerning the state of mind. A person may come and listen to the Dhamma, but because of the 5 hindrances, sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt covering him, so he has delusion. So sometimes some people, because of strong 5 hindrances, their delusion is more. Then sometimes they listen to the Dhamma, so they cannot understand. So there's a difference between the two. 1.11 Tanha Sangyojana Sutta. Tanha is craving, Sangyojana is factor. Monks, I do not perceive any single factor other than the factor of craving, by which beings are so tight and for so long a time run on and wander in samsara. It's indeed through the factor of craving that beings are tight and for a long time run on and wander in samsara. A man companioned by craving wanders on this long journey. He cannot go beyond samsara in this state of being or another. Having understood the danger thus, that craving is the origin of suffering, a monk should wander mindfully, free from craving, without grasping. Craving is said to be the cause of suffering and the 4 noble truths. And craving arises because of pleasant feelings. Because of pleasant feelings, we have craving for sensual desire, and also we have craving for existence. But if the feeling that arises is suffering, a lot of suffering, like now the economy is no good, some people go bankrupt, then because of too much suffering, they want to commit suicide. So they crave for non-existence. They want to commit suicide. So these are the 3 cravings. Craving for sensual desire, for existence and for non-existence. 1.12 Patama Seka Sutta. This was said by the Lord. Monks, in regard to internal factors, I do not perceive another single factor so helpful as careful attention or careful consideration or thorough consideration for a monk who is a learner, who has not attained perfection but lives aspiring for the supreme security from bondage. Monks, a monk who wisely attends, abandons what is unwholesome, and develops what is wholesome. For a monk who is a learner, there is no other thing so helpful for reaching the highest goal as the factor wise attention or careful attention. Wisely striving, a monk may attain the destruction of all suffering. This wise attention should be yoniso manasikara, and it is one of 2 conditions to attain right view. To attain right view, the first condition is the voice of another teaching you the Dhamma. This is mentioned in Sutta, I think, Majjhima Nikaya number 43. And that Sutta, the first condition for attaining right view is listening to the Dhamma, somebody else teaching you the Dhamma. And the second condition is yoniso manasikara, careful attention or wise attention or thorough attention. So when we listen to the Dhamma, we must pay careful attention, then we can understand. 1.13 Dutiya Seka Sutta. Monks, in regard to external factors, I do not perceive another single factor so helpful as a good friend for a monk who is a learner, who has not attained perfection but lives aspiring for the supreme security from bondage. Monks, a monk who has a good friend abandons what is unwholesome and develops what is wholesome. When a monk has a good friend and is reverential and respectful, doing what his friend advises, clearly comprehending and mindful, he may progressively attain the destruction of all factors. There is a sutta. This good friend refers to Kalyana Mitta, supposed to be a spiritual friend or spiritual teacher. And there's one sutta where Venerable Ananda said, he told the Buddha, he thinks half of the holy life has to do with a good friend, a good advisor. San Chi Si, our Chinese we translate, good knowing advisor. And the Buddha said, don't say that. And the Buddha said, the whole of the holy life has to do with a good friend. Unless you have a good spiritual guide, you will not be able to know which way to go, how to practice. So a good spiritual friend is important. But now that the Buddha has come into the world, the best spiritual friend is the Buddha. And now that he's entered Nibbana, the Buddha is to be found in the Dhamma, in the suttas, the words of the Buddha. Is the Buddha's Dhamma body, the Buddha's Dhamma body, and the suttas, it represents the Buddha now. 1.14, Sangha Beda Sutta. There is one thing, monks, which when it appears in the world, appears for the detriment of many people, for the misery of many people, for the loss, detriment and suffering of devas and humans. What is that one thing? It is disunity in the Sangha. When the Sangha is divided, there are mutual quarrels, mutual recriminations, mutual denigrations, and mutual expulsions. In this situation, those who are unsympathetic are not converted, and some who are sympathetic change their minds. One who divides the Sangha abides in a state of misery in hell for the aeon's full duration. Delighting in dissent, unrighteous, he is deprived of security from bondage. By dividing a unified Sangha, he suffers in hell for an aeon. There are 5 things, 5 types of karma, which are the most heavy evil karmas in the whole world. The first one is to injure a Buddha and cause him to shed the blood purposely. Second one is to kill an Arahant. Third one is to kill your mother. Fourth is to kill your father. The fifth is to cause the Sangha to split into 2 Sanghas. But this normally refers to monks. Monks who create problems within the Sangha and divide the Sangha into 2 camps, like Devadatta. Once you commit one of these 5 offenses, there's no way of saving you. You will definitely go to hell for a world cycle. A world cycle is an extremely long time. 1.15, Sangha Samagi Sutta. There is one thing, monks, which when it appears in the world, appears for the welfare of many people, for the happiness of many people, for the good welfare and happiness of devas and humans. What is that one thing? It is unity in the Sangha. When the Sangha is united, there are no mutual quarrels, mutual recriminations, mutual denigrations, and mutual expulsions. In this situation, those who are unsympathetic are converted, and those who are sympathetic increase in faith. Pleasant is unity in the Sangha. One who helps those in unity, who delights in unity and is righteous, is not deprived of security from bondage. By making the Sangha united, he rejoices in heaven for an aeon. When the Sangha is divided, then the monks do their duties. They beg for their food, give lay people a chance to plant blessings, and they teach the Dhamma to educate people to walk the skillful way in life, not to be unskillful in life. 1.16, Padutta Chitta Sutta. Here, monks, some person has a corrupt mind. Having examined his mind with my mind, I know that if this person were to die at this time, as if carried there, he would be placed in hell. What is the reason for that? It is because his mind is corrupt. It is because of the mind's corruption that some beings here, when the body perishes, are reborn after death in a state of misery, a bad born, a state of ruin, hell. Understanding the corrupt mind of some person dwelling here, the Buddha explained its meaning in the presence of the monks. If that person were to die at this very moment now, he would be reborn in hell because of his corrupt mind, as if they were carried off and placed there. Thus, beings go to a bad born because of mind's corruption. You all probably know in the Dhammavuddho, the first verse is about mind being the forerunner of all states. Mind is foremost, mind is chief. So our mind is extremely important. 1.17 Pasana Chitta Sutta. Here among some person has a confident mind. Having examined his mind with my mind, I know that if this person were to die at this time, as if carried there, he would be placed in heaven. What is the reason for that? It is because his mind is confident. It is because of the mind's confidence that some beings here, when the body perishes, are reborn after death in a good born in a heavenly world. Understanding the confident mind of some person dwelling here, the Buddha explained its meaning in the presence of the monks. If that person were to die at this very moment now, he would arise in a good born because of his confident mind, as if they were carried off and placed there. Thus beings go to a good born because of mind's confidence. This confidence should be confidence in the Dhamma, or you can say faith in the Dhamma. 1.18 Metta Sutta. Monks, do not fear meritorious deeds. This is an expression denoting happiness, what is desirable, wished for, dear and agreeable, that is, meritorious deeds. For I know full well, monks, that for a long time I experienced desirable, wished for, dear and agreeable results from often performing meritorious deeds. Having cultivated for 7 years a mind of loving kindness, for 7 aeons or world cycle of contraction and expansion, I did not return to this world, this human world. Whenever the aeon contracted, I reached the plane of streaming radiance, and when the aeon expanded, I arose in an empty Brahma mansion. And there I was a Brahma, the great Brahma, the unvanquished victor, the all-seeing, the all-powerful. 36 times I was Sakka, Devaraja, and many hundreds of times I was a wheel-turning monarch, righteous, a king of righteousness, conqueror of the 4 quarters of the earth, maintaining stability in the land, in possession of the 7 jewels. What need is there to speak of mere local kingship? It occurred to me, monks, to wonder, of what kind of deed of mine is this the fruit? Of what deeds ripening is it that I am now of such great accomplishment and power? And then it occurred to me, it is the fruit of 3 kinds of deeds of mine, the ripening of 3 kinds of deeds, that I am now of such great accomplishment and power. Deeds of giving, dana, of self-mastery, dharma, and of refraining, sanyama. One should train in deeds of merit that yield long-lasting happiness, generosity, a balanced life, developing a loving mind. By cultivating these 3 things, deeds yielding happiness, the wise person is reborn in bliss, in an untroubled, happy world. This, when the world contracted, and then that means the end of the world. Then he was reborn in the plane of streaming radiance. This should be the 2nd jhana heaven. Then after that he arose in the Brahma mansion. The Buddha mentioned in some other sutta that our actions in this life, on the human plane, is the effects of it is carried on for many lifetimes. That's why the human realm is extremely important. We create a lot of karma here. Like the heavenly beings who enjoy and use up their blessings. And then the beings in the woeful plane suffer, every day miserable, and They just keep suffering only. They don't create so much karma. But we as human beings, we create a lot of karma. We use the mind a lot. So the next few lifetimes, it's all decided by the human life. So you see, after he was born as the great Brahma, in the second jhana heaven, after that he fell to the first jhana heaven, Mahabrahma. After that, fell to the Sakadeva Raja. After that, fell to the human, became the wheel-turning king. So you see, the good karma lasted so many lifetimes. So he said, this is the fruit of three kinds of deeds, karma. One is dana, generosity, doing charity. Second one is self-mastery. You can say self-mastery. Mastery is, for example, of your mind. That means bhavana, development of the mind. And of refraining from doing evil. That is sila. So we find in the other suttas, the Buddha says there are three bases of merit, getting blessings. Dana, sila and bhavana. Dana is giving. Sila is refraining from evil action. Hokkien we say kim ok, restraining yourself from evil. And the third one is bhavana, development of the mind. That means you master your mind. So that's why it's called self-mastery. It's because he mastered his mind that he could be reborn in the second jhana heaven. Without the second jhana, how to be reborn there? Now we come to 1.19. Ubayata Sutta. There is one thing monks developed and continually practice, by which both kinds of welfare are acquired and maintained. Welfare here and now, and that pertaining to the future. What is that one thing? It is diligence in wholesome states. This is that one thing. The wise praise diligence in doing deeds of merit. For one who is wise and diligent obtains a twofold benefit: welfare in the here and now, and welfare in a future life. And because one has realized the good, the wise person is called a sage. So here, welfare now means in this present life, and future means in the future lifetimes. That is diligence in acquiring wholesome states, hard working, energetic effort. The Buddha says there is one thing that can benefit us. In some other sutta it says there's one thing that can benefit us this life and future lives. What is that one thing? Diligence. Diligence in doing good, in cultivating good, skillful life. 1.20 Atipunja Sutta. Monks, the skeletons of a single person running on and wandering in samsara for an aeon would make a heap of bones, a quantity of bones as large as this Mount Vipula, if there was someone to collect them, and if the collection were not destroyed. The bones of a single person accumulated in a single aeon or world cycle would make a heap like a mountain, so said the great sage. He declared it to be as great as Mount Vipula, to the north of Vulture's Peak, in the hill fort of Magadha. But when one sees with perfect wisdom the Four Noble Truths as they are, suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the Noble Eightfold Path leading to relief from suffering, having merely run on 7 times at the most, by destroying all fetters, one makes an end of suffering. So when one understands the Four Noble Truths, then one becomes a Sotapanna and has 7 more rebirths at the most. And after destroying all the fetters, one enters Nibbana. So we have been in samsara for so long. Even this one world cycle, the Buddha is only talking about one world cycle. Our bones will be as much as Mount Vipula. But how many world cycles we have been in samsara? I mean, for a long time in samsara. That's why today we are spiritually mature enough to be interested in the Dhamma. Many world cycles ago, when we were animals, if somebody tried to teach you the Dhamma, or you're a ghost, you're also not interested. But But now we have suffered after so many lifetimes, then we are interested in the Dhamma. 1.21 Musavada Sutta. Monks, I say that for an individual who transgresses in one thing, there is no evil deed whatsoever he would not do. What is that one thing? It is this, monks, deliberately telling a lie. There is no evil that cannot be done by a person who deliberately lies, who transgresses in one thing, taking no account of the next world. So a person who purposely tells a lie is a shameless person, and a shameless person can do anything. He's not ashamed to do anything. 1.22 Dana Sutta. Monks, if beings knew, as I know, the result of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would they allow the stain of meanness to obsess them and take root in their minds. Even if it were their last morsel, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared it, if there were someone to share it with. But monks, as beings do not know, as I know, the result of giving and sharing, they eat without having given. The stain of meanness obsesses them and takes root in their minds. If beings only knew, so said the great sage, how the result of sharing is of such great fruit, with a gladdened mind, rid of the stain of meanness, they would duly give to noble ones, who make what is given fruitful, having given much food as offerings. To those most worthy of offerings, the donors go to heaven on departing the human state. Having gone to heaven, they rejoice, and enjoying pleasures there, the unselfish experience the result of generously sharing with others. It's a very nice sutta. If beings only knew the result of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given. And they would not be stingy at all. But because beings do not know, that's why you see in the world there's so much suffering. There's starvation in Africa, now in Somalia, they show in the papers, people are dying. And other parts of the world, people have too much to eat, they throw away a lot of the food. So, if we only knew the result of karma, then we will be very skillful in our karma. 1.23 Metta Bhavana Sutta. Monks, whatever grounds there are for making merit productive of a future birth, all these do not equal a 16th part of the radiation by mind of loving kindness, or release by mind of loving kindness. The release by mind of loving kindness surpasses them and shines forth bright and brilliant. Just as the radiance of all the stars does not equal a 16th part of the moon's radiance, but the moon's radiance surpasses them and shines forth bright and brilliant. Even so, whatever grounds there are for making merit productive of a future birth, all these do not equal a 16th part of the mind of the release by mind of loving kindness. Just as in the last month of the rainy season in the autumn, when the sky is clear and free of clouds, the sun, on ascending, dispels the darkness of space and shines forth bright and brilliant. Even so, whatever grounds there are for making merit productive of a future birth, all these do not equal a 16th part of the release by mind of loving kindness. And just as in the night, at the moment of dawn, the morning star shines forth bright and brilliant, even so, whatever grounds there are for making merit productive of a future birth, all these do not equal a 16th part of the release by mind of loving kindness. The release by mind of loving kindness surpasses them and shines forth bright and brilliant. For one who mindfully develops boundless loving kindness, seeing the destruction of clinging, the fetters are worn away. If with an uncorrupted mind he pervades just one being with loving kindly thoughts, he makes some merit thereby. But a noble one produces an abundance of merit by having a compassionate mind towards all living beings. Those royal seers who conquered the earth crowded with beings, went about performing sacrifices. The horse sacrificed, the man sacrificed, the water rites, the soma sacrifice, and that called the unobstructed. But these do not share even a 16th part of a well-cultivated mind of love, just as the entire starry host is dimmed by the moon's radiance. One does not kill, nor cause others to kill, who does not conquer, nor cause others to conquer. Kindly towards all beings, he has enmity for none. This too is the meaning of what was said by the Lord, thus I heard. So here, whatever dana we do, cannot compare it all to the mind of loving kindness. Why? Because sometimes we do dana also, we still have selfishness, meanness inside us. But if you have loving kindness, the Buddha says, mind is the forerunner of all states. So if you have loving kindness towards all beings, then you will always be kind towards all beings. Whereas you do dana, only sometimes you do dana, sometimes you are selfish. Now we come to the next chapter, this chapter of the twos, Dukanipata. 2.1, Dukkha Vihara Sutta. Monks, possessed of two things, a monk lives in discomfort here and now, or suffering, bringing upon himself vexation, trouble and distress. And when the body perishes after death, a bad born is to be expected. What are the two? Being unguarded regarding the doors of the senses, and being immoderate in eating. These are the two things, possessed of which a monk lives in discomfort, here and now, bring upon himself vexation, trouble and distress. And when the body perishes after death, a bad born is to be expected. The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and likewise the mind. A monk who leaves these doors unguarded here, immoderate in eating, of uncontrolled senses, experiences suffering both bodily and mental, being tormented by body and tormented by mind. Such a one lives in discomfort both by day and by night. For a monk, these two are important, to always guard the doors of the senses and to be moderate in eating. So it's a good thing we don't have dinner. 2.2 Sukha Vihara Sutta. Monks, possessed of two things, a monk lives in comfort here and now, not bringing upon himself vexation, trouble and distress. And when the body perishes after death, a good born is to be expected. What are the two? Being guarded regarding the doors of the senses and being moderate in eating. These are the two. The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and likewise the mind. A monk who has these doors well guarded here, moderate in eating, of controlled senses, experiences happiness, both bodily and mental, not tormented by mind, not tormented by body, nor tormented by mind. Such a one lives in comfort both by day and by night. If we guard the doors of the senses, the Buddha says, when we see or hear or smell, taste and touch, or think, then we don't pay too much attention to the main features and the minor details. If you pay too much attention, then you start to discriminate. This is beautiful, this is ugly, this is nice, this is repulsive, and all these things. And then the train of thought starts. And then greed can arise. Avariciousness and grief. You are greedy for something, and then if you can't get it, then grief will arise. 2.3 Tapaniya Sutta. There are two things, monks, causing remorse. What are the two? Here someone has not done what is good, not done what is wholesome, not done what is beneficial, but has done evil, careless, wrongful deeds. He is remorseful on thinking, I have not done good, and is remorseful on thinking, I have done evil. These monks are the two things causing remorse. Having performed misconduct by body, misconduct by speech, misconduct by mind, and whatever else is reckoned a fault, not having done a good deed and done much that is bad, when his body perishes, that foolish one is reborn in hell. One thing we notice, a lot of people on their deathbed, they are very remorseful because of these two things. What is good, they had the chance to do, they did not do. For example, duty towards the parents, duty towards the family, etc. And then what was not good, they did. Broke the precepts and harm others because of greed, hatred and delusion. So most people, they regret very much on their deathbed. 2.4 Attapanya Sutta. There are two things, monks, causing no remorse. What are the two? Here someone has done what is good, done what is wholesome, done what is beneficial, and has not done evil, careless, wrongful deeds. He is not remorseful on thinking, I have done good, and is not remorseful on thinking, I have done no evil. These monks are the two things causing no remorse. Having abandoned misconduct by body, misconduct by speech, misconduct by mind, and whatever else is reckoned a fault, not having done a bad deed and done much that is good, when his body perishes, that wise one is reborn in heaven. Sometimes to do good is very difficult. For example, to practice the holy path, practice the spiritual path. For lay people to devote 1 or 2 hours every day to listen to the Dhamma, to practice meditation, to keep your precepts when you are working, etc. That is difficult. But what is difficult and you do it, and then it's meritorious. What is easy to do and you do, there's very little merit. To give $1 is very easy. When you do dana, people come and collect charity. You give one ringgit. That's easy to do. But to give a lot is difficult. But if you think it's a good cause, worthy of your helping, then you are willing to give a lot. That is hard to do, and that is you'll be happy next time when you think about it. Not only money. In other ways, if you help people, go out of your way, as they see, walk the extra mile for your friend, for your acquaintance or what. So I always say, what is good is not cheap, what is cheap is not good. So on the other hand, like refraining from doing wrong, sometimes it's difficult to keep the precepts well. It's not easy because then if you allow the lawyer inside in your mind, then you say, if nobody is keeping the precept so pure, why should I keep the precept so pure? So, but if you take the trouble to do it, then on your deathbed, you will have no remorse, you will have only happiness. 2.5 Patama Sila Sutta. Possessing two things, monks, a person is placed in hell as if carried there. What are the two things? Bad behavior or evil behavior and wrong view or bad view. This is a bad behavior, papaka is evil, papa is evil. Or this one is papakaya, papikaya, wrong view or evil view. These things, these monks are the two things. If a person possesses these two things, bad behavior and wrong view, when his body perishes, that foolish one is reborn in hell. So bad behavior or evil behavior is harming others. Harming others, that means not keeping your sila, not having moral conduct. And then wrong view is not believing in karma, not believing that there is there are planes of rebirth, that after death we take rebirth again according to our actions. And the third thing is not believing that they are holy men. So that is worldly wrong view. So people go to a bad rebirth because of these two things. Not keeping the precepts, that means having no moral conduct, and wrong view, not believing in Dhammavuddho, action and its result. 2.6 Duttiya Sila Sutta. Possessing two things, monks, a person is placed in heaven as if carried there. What are the two things? Good behavior and right view. These are the two things. If a person possesses these two things, good behavior and a right view, when his body perishes, that wise one is reborn in heaven. So a person goes to heaven because of these two things. So we ought to take care of these two things. Moral conduct and right view. And right view we can only get when we learn the Dhamma. So we need to learn the Dhamma more, listen to the Dhamma, and keep the Sila precepts. 2.7 Atapi Sutta. Monks, a person who is without ardor and without fear of wrongdoing is incapable of attaining enlightenment, incapable of attaining Nibbana, incapable of attaining the supreme security from bondage. But a monk who has ardor and a fear of wrongdoing is capable of doing so. One who is not ardent, ardent means diligent, vigorous, energetic effort. One who is not ardent, reckless, lazy and of little vigor, full of lethargy and torpor, shameless and without respect, such a monk cannot attain enlightenment which is supreme. But a mindful and discerning meditator, ardent, scrupulous and diligent, having severed the fetters of birth and decay, can attain for himself right here and now enlightenment which is supreme. So to attain Nibbana, energetic effort is very important. The second one is fear of wrongdoing. Always examine yourself whether you are doing anything wrong. 2.8 Patama Nakuhana Sutta. Monks, this holy life is not lived for the sake of deceiving people, for the sake of cajoling people, for the sake of profiting in gain, honor and fame, nor with the idea, let people know me thus. This holy life, monks, is lived for the sake of restraint and abandoning. The Lord taught a holy life not based on tradition, for restraint and abandoning, leading to and merging in Nibbana. This is the path followed by the great, pursued by the lofty sages, those who enter that course, as taught by the enlightened one, heeding the teacher's instruction, will make an end of suffering. So monks wear the robe, should not deceive people, should not cajole, plead with people to do this and do that, not for gains and honor and fame, but it's for the sake of restraining oneself, taming oneself, and letting go. 2.9 Duttiya Nakuhana Sutta. Monks, this holy life is not lived for the sake of deceiving people, for the sake of cajoling people, for the sake of profiting in gain, honor and fame, nor with the idea, let people know me thus. This holy life, monks, is lived for the sake of direct knowledge and full understanding. The Lord taught a holy life not based on tradition, for knowledge and understanding leading to and merging in Nibbana. This is the path followed by the great, pursued by the lofty sages, those who enter that course, as taught by the enlightened one, heeding the teacher's instruction, will make an end of suffering. So, Buddha is saying here, when one wears the robe, it is for the sake of understanding the Dhamma and direct knowledge, if possible, enlightenment, if not at least an Aryan stage. 2.10 Somanassa Sutta. Monks, possessing two things, a monk lives here and now with much pleasure and happiness, and is properly motivated for the destruction of the asavas. What are the two things? Being moved by a sense of urgency on occasions for urgency, and being moved, making a proper endeavor. These monks are the two things. A wise person should be urgently moved on occasions that make for urgency. As an ardent, discerning monk, he should investigate with wisdom. One living ardent thus, of peaceful conduct, not proud, practicing tranquility of mind, may attain the destruction of suffering. One should have a sense of urgency, that life is very short, life is very uncertain. We don't know any time our life may stop due to so many ways our life can end. And then knowing that life is impermanent, we should strive, make a proper endeavor. Don't be complacent. A lot of people are complacent, and then when death comes, they get a shock. Never thought that death will come so soon. 2.11 Vittaka Sutta. Monks, two thoughts often occur to the Tathagata, the Arahant Sammasambuddha: the thought of security for beings and the thought of solitude. The Tathagata monks is one who delights in and enjoys non-ill will. As the Tathagata delights in and enjoys non-ill will, this thought often occurs to him: by this behavior, I do not oppress anyone, either frail or firm. The Tathagata monks is one who delights in and enjoys solitude. As the Tathagata delights in and enjoys solitude, this thought often occurs to him: what is unwholesome has been abandoned. Therefore, monks, I say, you too must live delighting in and enjoying non-ill will. And as you so live, this thought will often occur to you: by this behavior, we do not oppress anyone, either frail or firm. Monks, you too must live delighting in and enjoying solitude. As you so live, this thought will often occur to you: what is unwholesome? What has not been abandoned? What have we abandoned? Two thoughts occur to him, the Tathagata, the awakened one, who endured what is beyond endurance. Security for beings was the first thought spoken of. Solitude was the second announced. The dispeller of darkness, gone beyond, the great sage who has reached attainment, become a master, freed from asavas, who has crossed over entirely, released by the destruction of craving. That sage bears his final body, and having left behind Mara, I say, he has gone beyond decay. As one standing on a mountain peak might see all round the people down below, so having ascended the Dhamma palace, the vastly wise one, all-seeing, views the people of the world. The sorrowless one views below those still immersed in sorrow, overwhelmed by birth and decay. So the Buddha, he has no ill will or anger or hatred, and he delights in solitude. Solitude is something you need to get used to. Initially, if you stay alone, you find it's difficult. But after you get used to it, and the mind calms down, then you like to be alone. 2.12 Desana Sutta. There are amongst two successive Dhamma teachings of the Tathagata, Arahant, Sammasambuddha. What are the two? See evil as evil. This is the first Dhamma teaching. Having seen evil as evil, be rid of it, be detached from it, be freed from it. This is the second Dhamma teaching. These monks are the two successive Dhamma teachings of the Tathagata. Regard the ordered words he spoke, the Tathagata, the awakened one, compassionate for all beings, and the two things he proclaimed. See what is evil is one, the other be detached from it. With the mind become detached from evil, you will make an end of suffering. So we must always differentiate the good from the evil, what is wholesome, what is unwholesome, what is skillful, what is not skillful. And then having seen it, then you know how to act. Be detached from evil. 2.13 Vijja Sutta. Ignorance, monks, precedes and leads to unwholesome states, and shamelessness and lack of fear of wrongdoing follow after. Knowledge, monks, precedes and leads to wholesome states, and shame and fear of wrongdoing follow after. Whatever bad bonds there are in this world and hereafter, all are rooted in ignorance, constructed by desire and greed. Since one of evil desires is shameless and disrespectful, from that evil flows forth, and he goes to a state of misery. Thus, by discarding desire and greed, along with ignorance as well, a monk arouses knowledge and abandons all bad bonds. So, because of ignorance of the Dhamma, we do unwholesome actions, and our mind is unwholesome, and because our mind is unwholesome, we are shameless, and we have no fear of wrongdoing. But if we have knowledge of the Dhamma, then our mind becomes a wholesome mind, and because of a wholesome mind, we have a sense of shame, and we fear wrongdoing. So knowledge of the Dhamma is extremely important. 2.14 Panya Parihina Sutta. Monks, those beings are thoroughly deprived, who are deprived of noble wisdom. They live in discomfort even here and now, with vexation, trouble and distress. And when the body perishes at death, a bad born is to be expected. Those beings are not deprived, who are not deprived of noble wisdom. They live in comfort here and now, without vexation, trouble or distress. And when the body perishes at death, a good born is to be expected. See the world with its devas, destitute of wisdom, established in mentality and materiality, conceiving this to be the truth. Wisdom which leads to penetration is the best thing in the world. By this one completely understands the ending of both birth and being. Devas and human beings hold dear those awakened ones, ever mindful, possessing joyous wisdom, bearing their final bodies. So noble wisdom gives us happiness. If you don't have Aryan, noble refers to the Aryan. If you don't have Aryan wisdom, then you suffer here and now and in the future also. And wisdom comes from learning the Dhamma. 2.15 Sukha Dhamma Sutta. Monks, these two bright principles protect the world. What are the two? A sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing. If monks, these two bright principles did not protect the world, there would not be discerned respect for mother or maternal aunt, or maternal uncle's wife, or teacher's wife, or the wives of other honored persons, and the world would have fallen into promiscuity, as with goats, sheep, chickens, pigs, dogs, and jackals. But as these two bright principles protect the world, there is discerned respect for mother, or maternal aunt, or maternal uncle's wife, etc. Those in whom shame and fear of wrong are not consistently found have deviated from the bright route and are led back to birth and death. But those in whom shame and fear of wrong are consistently ever present, peaceful, mature in the holy life, they put an end to renewal of being. So the Buddha says these two things very important. A sense of shame and fear of doing wrong. If these two did not exist, then human beings will become promiscuous, like animals. Animals, they don't consider this is the mother, this is the one. They are entirely promiscuous. So when people don't understand the Dhamma and life is good, sometimes people also become very promiscuous. So in the world, there's a lot of sexual misconduct. 2.16 Ajatta Sutta. There is monks, the unborn, the unbecome, the uncreated, the unconditioned. If monks, there were not the unborn, the unbecome, the uncreated, the unconditioned. No escape would be discerned from what is born, from what is become, from what is created, from what is conditioned. But since there is the unborn, the unbecome, the uncreated, the unconditioned, therefore an escape is discerned from what is born, from what is become, from what is created, from what is conditioned. The born, the become, the produced, the created, the conditioned, the transient, conjoined with decay and death, a nest of disease, perishable, sprung from nutriment and cravings caught, that is not fit to take delight in. The escape from that, the peaceful, beyond reasoning, everlasting, the unborn, the unproduced, the sorrowless state that is void of stain, the cessation of states linked to suffering, the stilling of the condition, that is bliss. So this reminds us of the previous sutta, I think 8.3, and the Udana, where it talked about the unborn, the unbecome, the uncreated, the unconditioned state of Nibbana or Parinibbana, and that is our aim, because whatever is born or become or created or conditioned, it will cease, and because of impermanence there, suffering arises. 2.17 Nibbana Dhatu Sutta. Monks, there are these two Nibbana elements. What are the two? The Nibbana element with residue left, and the Nibbana element with no residue left. What monks is the Nibbana element with residue left? Here a monk is an Arahant, one whose asavas are destroyed, the holy life fulfilled, who has done what had to be done, laid down the burden, attained the goal, destroyed the fetters of being, completely released through final knowledge. However, his five sense faculties remain unimpaired, by which he still experiences what is agreeable and disagreeable, and feels pleasure and pain. It is the extinction of attachment, hate, and delusion in him that is called the Nibbana element with residue left. Now what monks is the Nibbana element with no residue left? Here a monk is an Arahant, etc., completely released through final knowledge. For him here in this very life, all that is experienced, not being delighted in, will be extinguished. That, monks, is called the Nibbana element with no residue left. These monks are the two Nibbana elements. These two Nibbana elements were made known by the seeing one, stable and unattached. One is the element seen here and now, with residue, but with the cord of being destroyed. The other, having no residue for the future, is that wherein all modes of being utterly cease. Having understood the unconditioned state, released in mind, with the cord of being destroyed, they have attained to the Dhamma essence, delighting in the destruction of craving. Those stable ones have abandoned all being. So this Nibbana element with residue left refers to the living Arahant, and with no residue left is the one on passing away. When he passes away, the five aggregates are no more. 2.18 Patisalana Sutta. Live enjoying seclusion, monks. Live delighting in seclusion. Engage in practicing inner mental tranquility, not neglecting meditation, possessing insight, and frequenting empty places. If you live enjoying seclusion, monks, etc., and frequenting empty places, one of two fruits is to be expected: final knowledge here and now, or there being some residual defilement, the state of non-returning. Those of peaceful mind, discerning, mindful, given to meditation, clearly see things rightly, and long not for sensual pleasures. Those peaceful ones, delighting in diligence, who see fear in negligence, are incapable of falling away and are close to Nibbana. The Buddha himself liked to go into seclusion, so he encourages monks to go into seclusion and meditate. He says, if you practice that way, then two results are expected, either enlightenment in this lifetime or anagamin, third fruition. Monks, 2.19, next sutta. Sikha Nisangsa Sutta. Monks, live so as to realize the benefits of the training, the attainment of higher wisdom, the essence of release, and the control of mindfulness. Monks, if you live to realize the benefits of the training, etc., one of two fruits is to be expected: final knowledge here and now, or there being some residual defilement, the state of non-returning. One who has completed the training, incapable of falling away, attained to the higher wisdom, a seer of the end of birth, that sage bears his final body, and having left behind conceit, he has gone beyond decay, I say. Therefore, ever delighting in meditation, concentrated with ardent energy, seeing the end of birth, O monks, conquer Mara and his host, and go beyond all birth and death. So the benefit of training oneself on the Noble Eightfold Path. 2.20 Jagarya Sutta. Monks, a monk should be vigilant. He should live mindful, clearly comprehending, concentrated, happy and calm, and should know when it is suitable to cultivate those things that are wholesome. Monks, for a monk who is vigilant and living thus, one of two fruits is to be expected: final knowledge here and now, or there being some residual defilement, the state of non-returning. You vigilant ones, hear this. Wake up, you who are asleep. Vigilance is better than sleep. There is no fear for the vigilant. One who is vigilant and mindful, comprehending and concentrated, joyful and calm in his thoughts, by rightly investigating the Dhamma with unified mind, will in time destroy the darkness of ignorance. Therefore be devoted to vigilance, an ardent, discerning, meditative monk. Having severed the fetter of birth and decay, one may here and now attain enlightenment which is supreme. This vigilance is another wakefulness, devoted to wakefulness, Jagarya Nu Yoga. So this is vigilance or wakefulness. So the Buddha wants his monks to be wakeful all the time, not to fall asleep like most people. 2.21 Apayika Sutta. Monks, these two will go to a state of misery, to hell, by not giving up such conduct as this. What two? One who, while no liver of the holy life, pretends to be one who lives the holy life, and one who falsely accuses another who lives the holy life in complete purity of not living it. These two will go to a state of misery, to hell, by not giving up such conduct as this. The false accuser goes to hell, and also one who denies the deed he did. Both these become equal hereafter, persons of base actions in the world beyond. Many impostors wear the yellow robe, though evil-natured and uncontrolled. Because of their evil deeds, those evil ones are born in hell. Far better for him to swallow a fiery hot iron ball than that immoral and uncontrolled he should eat the country's arms. So here, these two, the Buddha says, is very bad karma. One is to wear the monk's robe and pretending to be a monk, but not conducting oneself like a monk, not keeping the precepts, lazy and all that. The other one is to talk bad about a person who practices the holy life. Accuse that person of doing wrong when he does not do wrong. So if that person happens to be an Arya, then the person who slanders him may go to hell. 2.22 Itivuttaka Sutta. Monks, held by two kinds of views, some devas and human beings hold back, and some overreach. Only those with vision see. And how monks do some hold back? Devas and humans enjoy being, delight in being, are satisfied with being. When Dhamma is taught to them for the cessation of being, their minds do not enter into it or acquire confidence in it or settle upon it or become resolved upon it. Thus monks do some hold back. And how monks do some overreach? Now, some are troubled, ashamed and disgusted by this very same being, and they rejoice in the idea of non-being, asserting, inasmuch as this self, good sirs, when the body perishes at death, is annihilated and destroyed and does not exist after death. This is peaceful, this is excellent, this is reality. Thus monks do some overreach. And how monks do those with vision see? Herein a monk sees what has come to be as having come to be. Having seen it thus, he practices the cause for turning away, for dispassion, for the cessation of what has come to be. Thus monks do those with vision see. Having seen what has come to be as having come to be, passing beyond what has come to be, they are released in accordance with truth by exhausting the craving for being. When a monk has fully understood that which has come to be as such, free from craving to be this or that, by the extinction of what has come to be, he comes no more to renewal of being. This too is the meaning of what was said by the Lord. So thus did I hear. That's the end of the chapter 2. So this last sutta, there are some who hold back. That means when they are taught the Dhamma, they don't accept it. They don't want to understand it and practice it. So they hold themselves back from going into the Dhamma. And some overreach. They are ashamed of the body and they think after death the body will be annihilated and destroyed. But this is wrong view because a person who understands the Dhamma, then he will know that even when he is alive, there is no being. It's just the body that exists. There is no self, there is no core of being, what is called the atta in Pali. This atta means something that is permanent, that's unchanging. But everything in the world is changing in a state of flux. So the Buddha says, it's only the consciousness making a big show of the whole world. We see ourselves lifetime after lifetime in samsara. Actually, it's just a play of the mind. No reality exists, no self exists. So these people who overreach, they don't understand that. So they are hoping when they pass away, this self will be annihilated. So that's the end of reading the suttas for tonight. Anything to discuss?
I would like to know the difference between good men and true men.
And true men. Kalyana Mitta and Sappurisa. Kalyana Mitta is a good knowing advisor, a spiritual friend whom you befriend and you take as like a teacher and to guide you. They like to guide you in the Buddha's Dhamma. So like for a monk, it's usually the Acharya, what in Thai we call Achan. So Sappurisa is Arya, a noble person. So he might be somebody whom you heard of, but you have no contact with. So Sappurisa is just... but if you take the Sappurisa to be your teacher, then that is also your good friend, Kalyana Mitta. He has some confidence, but he cannot know 100% unless he has psychic power. So the Buddha said that when we practice the spiritual path, we wear away our defilements. Okay, so the Buddha says, just like the Buddha's time, the adze is for planing the wood. Nowadays, of course, everything is electric. But in my younger days, they hold this wooden thing with a sharp blade, and they use two hands, more, they call it more pan, more the. So this is planing the wood with the adze. But during the Buddha's time, they use only one hand. They hold the instrument with the sharp metal, and they plane the wood, make it smooth. Okay? So the Buddha says, this carpenter, he uses the adze. After a long time, he will see his fingerprints embedded in the wood. Then he knows he has worn away the wood. But he doesn't know how much of the wood he worn away each day. Or last year he worn away how much, this year he worn away how much. But after a long time, when his fingerprints are embedded in there, then only he knows he has worn away the wood. So in the same way, a person on the spiritual path, when he attains arahanthood, then he know for sure that he is liberated. But if he attains the first fruit or second fruit or the third fruit, that is partial liberation, and he can guess, he can have the certain confidence. For example, the Buddha says the characteristics of the Sotapanna, the first fruition, is he has unshakable faith in the Buddha, unshakable faith in the Dhamma, unshakable faith in the Sangha, and he has the Aryan Sila. What is the Aryan Sila? The Aryan Sila, if you look at the Noble Eightfold Path, three factors make up the Aryan Sila. That is right speech, right action, and right livelihood. When you examine these three, it's actually 7 precepts. Yeah, I haven't finished. So, okay, I no need to go into detail, these 7 precepts. It's right, basically right action and right speech. Okay, so the other thing, a person who has attained the first path or the first fruit, he has the Dhamma Chakku, vision of the Dhamma. That means he has seen the Dhamma, he has seen basically the Four Noble Truths. He understands the Four Noble Truths, but not completely. If he understands the Four Noble Truths completely, he will be an Arahant. He has a basic understanding of the Four Noble Truths. But because he has a basic understanding of the Four Noble Truths, his person changes. He's no more interested in worldly things, no more interested in worldly pursuits. So he focuses his attention on the spiritual path. He will spend as much time as he can on learning the Dhamma, either reading the book or listening to the CDs on the suttas, and also meditating, keeping his sila, of that, practice the Noble Eightfold Path. So that is right vision. Also, it is said, Sotapanna, he becomes independent of others in the Buddha's teaching. Now, this is very important, He becomes independent of others in the Buddha's teaching. What does it mean? It means he doesn't need to rely on a teacher. His teacher basically is the Buddha. And the Buddha already stated that after he has passed away, I don't think there is no more teacher in the world. The Buddha said, what I have taught, the Dhamma that I have taught and the Vinaya that I have taught, that will be your teacher after I am gone. So you find a lot of people new on the spiritual path. They go all over the world looking for famous teachers. They go to Thailand, they go to Myanmar, they go to Sri Lanka, they go to China, they go to Taiwan, they go to Tibet, and they go to all over the world. But actually, there's no need. The words of the Buddha are still with us, and that is our real teacher. So these are the few characteristics of a Sotapanna. So if you think you have an understanding of the Dhamma, then you see whether you have these few characteristics. If you have, then you can be fairly confident. Okay.
What is one of the significant arahants like Mahathera, some other significant arahants like Itivuttaka and
Oh, because there are other, for example, Moggallana is a common name. Moggallana is a clan name. Kassapa also is a clan name. There are many Kassapas, there are many Moggalanas. So because these are special, they are called Maha, the Great. Moggallana the Great. In Thailand, we have this title Maha for monks. And that is given to a monk who has passed a number of years of the Dhamma exam. I think 3 years. The third stage, he knows some Pali. That is called Maha. Like Maha Longpo, Mahabua. Oh yes. In Buddhist countries they have. Monks have to study and pass the Buddhist exams. All Buddhist countries have.
Okay. Concerning Sutta, if a person only have worldly wide view, can he be the first day
Oh no. Worldly right view. If a person has worldly right view, he'll be a virtuous person. And you have virtuous persons in any religion. You have good Christians, you have good Muslims, you have good Hindus and all that. But they don't have the Aryan right view. Aryan right view is knowledge of the four noble truths, four Aryan truths. You have worldly right view, you are only a good person in the world, a virtuous person. You still come back. I mean, you after death, you probably go to heaven. Or come back as a human being. But he will come back again and again. He won't leave the cycle of rebirth. But once you are an Arya, even a Sotapanna, your lifetimes left are limited. Maximum of 7 lifetimes.
Then a true man must be someone that have understanding of the Four Noble Truths.
Oh, definitely.
But not just words.
He must be an Arya. Okay, shall we end here?